Titans, we are now on Activity 13, Part 2. Make sure that you have a little 2 up in that helmet because it does say Activity 13 at the bottom, page 36, Part 2. Okay, so we are still looking at the plot development. We are looking at the plot of the story, and we are going to look at our events in the story. So not only are we going to just look at the sentences from the story, we are going to look at the events that help move the story along. Okay, so event number 1, this is our example, all right? Moose finally goes public with his hang-up and tells Coach Williams that he wants to carry the ball. Okay, so why is this important? So this is what we're looking at. We're looking for why is this event important to the story, and we are still going to be using these bolded words. And we're also going to be talking about what happens as a result of this being in the story. So there's a few things that we're looking at here. All right, so event number 1. Moose finally goes public with his hang-up and tells Coach Williams that he wants to carry the ball. Okay, why is it important? Well, this event is important to the story because it is the first major rising action. It establishes Moose's goal and sets his plan in motion. This is the first step Moose takes in pursuing his dream of carrying the ball without having told his coach that never would have happened. And this is something that we've seen before. Ooh, that's pretty. What is that? This is something that we have seen before. We've actually written this down. We wrote it down. Written it down? I don't know. We wrote it down. This was in an earlier activity, so we already know this. We know why this is important. Okay, so let's just get our thoughts down on paper. Okay, event number 2. The Bears played so well. They were ahead of the Tigers 42-0 by the end of the third quarter. So why is this even important? Well, let's go ahead and start our text here. This is important, and it's kind of a long one, so write small, okay? This is important to the rising action in the story. Okay, Coach Williams decided to go ahead and allow Moose to run the ball because they were ahead by so much, right? And the game was almost over too. So we'll put that in there too. Okay, this is important to the rising action in the story. Coach Williams decided to go ahead and allow Moose to run the ball because they were ahead by so much and the game was almost over. All right, if the Bears didn't have such a huge lead, we're going to add this too. Oops, the Bears, sorry, I had to, didn't have such a huge lead, Coach Williams probably wouldn't have let Moose run the ball, right? Okay, so they had such a huge lead. He's like, well, might as well, not gonna hurt anything. Okay, so let's see. I will zoom in on that for you so you can see it just a little bit better. Make sure you have that written down. I know it's kind of a lot, so give yourself some space. Okay, if you need to pause it, go ahead and pause it. We're moving on to event number 3. Event number 3. On a few different occasions, the crowd broke into a chant. Give Moose the ball. Give Moose the ball. All right, so why is this event important to the rising action of the story? So we're going to say this event is important to the story, and it's actually important to the rising action of the story because Coach Williams did not believe that Moose should be allowed to carry the ball. Okay, so this event is important to the story because Coach Williams believed, oh my gosh, did you really do that, Miss Q? Yes, you did. Coach Williams believed that the moose, so we'll say moose, what did I do? Coach Williams believed that moose shouldn't be allowed to carry the ball. There we go. Okay, let's start over. This event is important to the story because Coach Williams believed that moose shouldn't be allowed to carry the ball. There we go. That's right. All right. Pressure from the crowd weakened the coach, I think. Weakened the coach, and there we go. Do I need coffee? What time is it? It's too late for coffee. Is it ever too late for coffee? I guess not, because I need it. Okay, pressure from the crowd weakened the coach and pressured him, really, I would say. And pressured him into at least considering allowing the moose to carry the ball. Okay. If the crowd hadn't been, so we're going to write this, if the crowd hadn't been on Moose's side, Coach Williams might not have let Moose run the ball at all. So if the crowd hadn't been chanting, so this is why this is so important. I mean, the coach already spoke his mind. He's like, nope, you block, that's your job, and that's it, right? But the crowd was kind of like, give Moose the ball, give Moose the ball. And he's like, well, okay, I guess. So if this never would have happened, he probably would never have ran the ball in, right? Okay, so let's write that down. If the crowd hadn't been on Moose's side, give that an apostrophe, Coach Williams might not have let Moose run the ball. Probably not. Okay, so make sure you have that. You can pause it if you need to and get that written down. That's a lot of writing. Give yourself some space. All right, the next event that happens in our short story was that Moose cradled the ball, ran a few steps, looked up, and said, whoa. Okay, so he thought he knew what he was doing. He thought it was just easy peasy, right? But really, we know that this event, shows us, this is evidence that shows us that it's a turning point for him. Okay, so we're going to say here that this is the climax of the story. Okay, and it's really also a turning point in the story and for Moose. Okay, so we're going to say for the first time, Moose realizes that running the ball, we'll say running the ball in for a touchdown is harder than he thought. Okay, it is harder than he thought it would be. He thought it'd be a piece of cake. He's been to hundreds of games and he knows the game inside and out, but he's never been in that position before, right? Okay, so let's add that. He had never been, or let's say he had never experienced other players all running towards him before. And he hadn't considered so he hadn't even considered that at all. He was just like, oh, I'm going to run the ball. I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to run it and make a touchdown. Everyone's going to cheer for me. Well, he didn't even think that all these other players were going to be running at him and his life would be in danger. No, they didn't say that. Okay, so let's keep going. This will be our last sentence. Because of this experience, he decides that he never wants to carry the ball again. Okay, so this is why it is so important to the story. You know, if we didn't have this part, if we didn't know that he just looked up and he was like, whoa, you know, he didn't even consider that people would be chasing him. Of course they're going to chase you if you have the ball. That's what people do. If you have the ball, people are going to chase you. Okay, so let me back out of this just a little bit. This was activity 13, part 2. Make sure you have the 2 on the helmet because I know that part 1 and part 2 look almost identical. Make sure that you have all your writing in here if you need to go back and re-watch the video, rewind it, re-watch it. Make sure you have all of this on there. Okay? All right, you guys, I will talk to you in the next video.